Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into the exciting world of containers and orchestration. We are going to take a simple Node.js application, package it into a Docker image, and then deploy it on Google Kubernetes Engine or GKE. This is the project number 4 from our DevOps hands-on tutorial series. And it's all about getting your hands dirty with real-world DevOps practices, right? And by the end of this video, you'll understand how to build and push Docker images, create a GKE cluster, and deploy your application using Kubernetes. So if you're ready to level up your DevOps skills, let's get started. Now, I've already covered 3 projects, and in the first one, we took a web server and then deployed it globally using GCE or Google Compute Engine, along with load balancers and cloud DNS. And then we also looked at how to scale it up, how to scale it down, and how it behaves based on different loads of traffic, etc. Then we took that example and then we used Terraform as our infrastructure as code tool and then deployed the entire infrastructure using Terraform. And after that, we took that Terraform code and then built a CI/CD pipeline using GitHub Actions. I know in this, when I was writing this particular article, I used Jenkins as an example, but I used GitHub Actions in the project number 3 to build an automated CI/CD pipeline to deploy your Terraform code to Google Cloud so that it spins up that globally scalable web service on Google Cloud. And whenever you do any commit, etc., then it was able to pick it up and then automatically deploy the changes to Google Cloud. So that's the recap from the past 3 projects. And if you are someone who is getting started with DevOps, you have done a couple of certifications and looking for some real-world hands-on practice, this series is for you. In today's tutorial, we are going to take a look at Docker and Kubernetes because we all know the importance of these 2 technologies, and we'll just dive right into it. Before we go ahead and then start to code and then create our application, the manifest, etc., there are a couple of prerequisites that you need, which is, you'll need a Google Cloud account. So in this one, you can see I'm already logged into my project, which is Mando host project. And if you have watched the first tutorial, you'll know that I'm a very big fan of Star Wars. So that's why I have named this project based on Mando host project. The name suggests Mandalorian. Very good series. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. And I have a Kubernetes cluster already created, but I'll show you how to create it, etc. Then you will need Docker installed. So if you're using a local machine, then you will need Docker, kubectl, and gcloud installed in it. But here I'll be using Cloud Shell, so it comes automatically with all these tools that I mentioned right now. So that's about the prerequisite. And let's go ahead and then start building our project. So you'll remember the real world DevOps projects GitHub repo, and this is where I'm keeping all my material so that you can follow along. So what I'll do is I'll quickly clone this repo into my Cloud Shell and then start coding there. So I'll do git clone, and clone is done. And I'll use the editor here to open the VS Code so that I can code easily there. So let me do that. Okay, so I already have this folder from the previous 2 tutorials where I have the Terraform code for the first 2 projects. Now what I'll do is I'll quickly go ahead and then add a new folder and say -docker and Kubernetes. And then what I'll do is, in this example, I'm using Node.js. So I'll create an app directory, and then I'll create a Kubernetes manifest directory. Now in this tutorial, I'm assuming that you're already very familiar with Docker and Kubernetes, the basics at least, like how to build an image, what is Docker Hub, or what is Docker repository, what is Kubernetes, and why do we use it, etc. Right? And other fundamentals like what are deployments, what are services, etc. So in this app, I have a Node.js application, which I'll call as app.js, and I'll copy my code here. And it's a very simple application using Express, and it's just saying hello from my app, and then it is listening on port 8080. That's it, right? And here I'll go ahead and then create a package.json and then copy the contents again. So in this package.json, you can see that I have a script section, and I'm saying node app.js, which will start the application. And then I have a dependency as well for Express. So very simple, and you don't have to necessarily know Node or JavaScript to do this. It's very simple application. If you have good understanding of Python, then you can do this entire thing using Python. There you will use Flask, etc. Then requirements.txt to install the dependency, which is Flask in this case, in Python's case. And then what I'll do is I'll create a Dockerfile. Now, Dockerfile is a file which we use to build our image, right? And let me quickly copy the contents of the Dockerfile. So basically, you can see a lot of directives here, which is from working directory, copy, run, expose, and cmd. Let me quickly walk you through this. So basically, here we define a base image, which is node alpine. And then we set our working directory inside the image or the container which will come up, which is the running instance of an image. And we are setting like whatever we run after this, like run inside the /app directory. We are copying the JSON file. We are doing npm install using run directive. Run is used to run any command like apt-get update, anything, right? Then we are copying everything, which includes app.js. And here I'll explicitly call app.js. And then, I'm exposing it on 8080 and then running my application using cmd. You can also use exec, but I'm using cmd directive over here. Now with this, our Docker file is done. Our application is ready. Awesome. So what I'll do is I'll now go ahead and then build the image. So I've already created the artifact registry, which I'm using as a Docker repo here, and the name is Real World DevOps. Now you can use Docker Hub by going to hub.docker.com, which is another publicly available Docker repository, and then you can upload your images here. But I'll be using Google Cloud's artifact registry. I've already created a repo here. So what I'll do is I'll push my image here. So for that, what I'll have to do is first authenticate myself using this command. It's done. And then I'll build the image. So in order to build the image, I have to tag it appropriately. And that's what you are seeing here. I'm tagging the image as US Central 1, Mando host project, and this repo name, and then the image name, and then version. And then I'm using dot to set the current context, which is saying Dockerfile is in this particular directory, which is /app. Now let's go ahead, press enter, and then this will build the Docker image. So it should build up very quickly because it's not much that is happening here, not many files to copy, etc. It's done. And now what I'll do is I'll just push the image to my artifact registry. I'll quickly authorize. Okay, so now this has started pushing the image to artifact registry. Okay, now the image is pushed. If I quickly go here and hit refresh, you'll see that my Node.js app is here and the tag will be there, which I set as v1. So you can see this over here as well. Now our application's image is in the artifact registry. Now let's go ahead and then build the Kubernetes manifest files. So let's go ahead and create our deployment.yaml. So basically what we are saying here is this is a deployment, and then this is our name of the deployment. And we are assigning some labels to this particular deployment so that our services can pick it up. And then finally we are specifying the image name, which is similar to what we just deployed here. So if you go to pull commands, what you'll see here is the name of the Docker image here. So that's the image. And then we are just saying that the container port on which the application is running is port 8080. And we are running 2 replicas of this particular application. Okay, so that's the deployment. Now let's expose this deployment using service.yaml. So services basically in Kubernetes are the objects which are useful for exposing your application to the outside world or inside the cluster. Now here I'm saying that this is a service, my node app service. And then here I'm saying the selector is my node app, which is very similar to this selector over here. That's how it will be able to select this particular deployment as its backend. And then I'm saying that run this particular service on port 80, and then the application target port is port 8080. Now the type is load balancer here. There are other types, as you know, that are there, which are cluster IP, then node port. But here, just for simplicity, I'm using load balancer so that I can hit it on our browser and then show it to you, this application. Okay, so that's done. Now let's go ahead and then deploy this application. So I already have a cluster which I'll use for this particular demo, but it's very simple and straightforward to go ahead and then create your own Kubernetes cluster. And let me show you how. If you click on this create button, you'll be seeing two options. One is autopilot and one is standard, right? So autopilot, basically everything is managed for you, the worker nodes as well. And then the other one is standard, which I'll be using for this particular demo. So if you quickly go ahead and then click on configure, what you'll see is this particular screen, where on the left hand side you'll see bunch of options, right? But one thing I really like about Google Cloud and for any of its services, which is you can quickly go ahead and then just hit on this create button, because all the defaults are fill in automatically for you. Now, based on your learning level, you can go ahead and then modify some of those options. For example, the network, whether you are using the default network or the shared VPC, etc. Then you can enable workload identity, you can enable GKE ingress, etc. Right? And then similarly, you have a lot of features over here. Whether you want to enable backup, what you have to do in security, enable binary auth, etc. But if you're just getting started, you can just go ahead and then click on this create button. So I'll cancel out of this because I already have a cluster, but that's what you have to do if you are following along to get yourself a new GKE cluster. So what I'll do is I will quickly go ahead and then log into this cluster. So for that, I'll run gcloud credentials command. Okay, so now I am authenticated to the cluster. In order to deploy this application, what I have to do is I'll go to this manifest repo. And let me also do one thing is, let me also define the namespace for these applications. So namespace are used for logically isolating the applications. So basically, if you have one Kubernetes cluster and multiple application teams running their applications, so you can segregate each of those applications using namespaces so that no one can just modify or tweak anything to that other application. So I'll just name this as node app, and then similarly here also I'll use the same namespace. Okay, what I'll do is kubectl create ns node app, and then I'll do kubectl apply -f deployment. So the deployment is deployed. And then if I'll do kubectl get pods -n node app, you'll see that the two replicas of my application is up and running, right? So now in order to expose this to the outside world, I'll do kubectl apply and then apply my service. So the service is also deployed, and if I have to get the service, I'll do kubectl get service, and then I'll use the namespace node app, and I'll just see what is happening here. So since it's a type of load balancer, right, so it will go ahead and then create a load balancer, and right now it is pending, so it takes some time. Now I got the IP. Now I'll quickly fetch this IP and then hit it on the browser. What you should see is the Node.js application. Awesome. So as you can see, if I quickly zoom in, you'll see that hello from my app, which is what we coded in our Node.js application over here, right? So that's a very simple thing which is happening here, and in this tutorial I just wanted to demonstrate this thing. I hope this is clear. So I pushed all the code to the real world DevOps projects repo, and you can go ahead and check out this repo, clone it in your environment, and then follow along. You'll find all the project files that I created in this particular video, and you can just go ahead and then follow along. So yeah, I think that's what I wanted to show in this fourth project, which is Docker and Kubernetes. So what we did is we successfully built a Docker image, pushed it to a registry, and then deployed our application on GKE. So this is a fundamental workflow in modern DevOps, and now you have hands-on experience with it, right? But this is just the beginning. There's so much more you can explore, right? Such as scaling your applications, right? Like learn how to scale your applications horizontally by increasing the number of replicas in your deployment, right? So basically, if you go here and then in the deployment, if you just scale the replicas from 2 to 3, and then you apply it again. By that you can just scale it horizontally, right? So you can experiment with this one. Now you'll have to do some performance testing to identify in real world application what is the appropriate size of the replicas, what should be the limit, request, etc. in terms of CPU memory for your application. Then you can add monitoring logging, and you can explore some advanced features like config maps, secrets, ingress, etc. Right? Now if I quickly go ahead and do kubectl git pods, you can see that now there are 3 replicas, right? This one just came 27 seconds ago. So yeah, I encourage you to experiment, build your own projects, and keep learning. The world of DevOps is constantly evolving, and there's always something new to discover, right? So that's what I wanted to show in this 4th project. Now in the 5th project, what I'll do is we will be implementing CI/CD pipeline. We will automate this entire build, testing, and deployment process using tools like GitHub Actions or Jenkins, etc. And then finally we'll take that one step further and then deploy it using GitOps. And one tool which implements GitOps is Argo CD. Now I've already gone ahead and then created a playlist for GitOps, so you can check it out. So you are already covered on that 6th project, but take it one step at a time, because this is 2 hours long tutorial on GitOps, and this is the chapter 5, which shows you how to implement this particular architecture. But stay tuned for the next project where we will automate everything that we did here. And yeah, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel for more DevOps content, and share it with your friends. And if you like this video, then you'll also like this video where I talk about cloud and DevOps engineer roadmap. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, you get to live, make the most out of it.